Hi and welcome to WoW Flash, and a few pieces of news that have come from the past week. And first of all, there's some more avatars being added now. So when you create that profile for yourself on Battlenet, there's a limited choice of avatars. It's still a little annoying that you can't just upload your own avatar, but okay. But they've now added to the number of avatars you can have, so there's even less excuse for just nicking my Uthal avatar. That should be the only one that's allowed, that one. Now, onto the really interesting news for a lot of people. So, when 7.3.5 came out, one of the big negatives in it was when it came to dungeons. People who like to rerun old dungeons for transmog gear or something like that basically were not able to do so. The sort of personal loot system, which is pervading now, didn't allow that. It really didn't allow for that, but they're going to change it. But they're not going to change it immediately. So what they've said is in Battle for Azeroth, they're going to come up with a different system. So if you enter a dungeon for which you are at least 10 levels too high, then the loot system suddenly changes to a legacy loot mode. Now, legacy loot mode does the following 4 things. So, read this off. The number of items dropped by all bosses will be the same as it would have been if you were in a full party. So, it's not just going to take the fact, oh, there's only one person there, therefore it will drop the same number of items. So it says if you're in a 5-player dungeon, you'll get 5 players worth of loot. Now, it's worth noting that this also applies to raids as well. It says for raids with a flexible raid size, such as Raid Finder, this will act as though there were 20 players in the raid. All items on the loot table will have a chance to drop, not just the ones that are designated for your spec, because of course with personal loot, it's only going to drop things for you. If you get anything at all, it's only going to drop it for your spec. Whereas with this system, it can drop anything. You're not going to get the best of both worlds, in other words. You know, if you're going to do this system where you're going to go into a dungeon that's quite low level, then you are going to have to put up with the fact you might get some loot that you're not wanting to. But at the same time, you get more of it, so up to you to decide what is your best chance there. And it also says if you have multiple players in the group, so, you know, as I have done on many occasions, where I might actually effectively be boosting a lower level character, although more about that next. It says the loot will be split amongst those players, but be tradable. So, for example, if you're clearing with one other player and kill a boss that should drop 4 items, you'll each be able to pick up 2 items and trade them between each other if you like. Presumably with the same restrictions, you've got a certain amount of time to do it. So that's coming for Battle for Azeroth. I don't know when that'll be available for testing in the alpha. I wouldn't have thought necessarily quickly, because I would have thought it was the sort of thing that was quite quick to implement. I don't see the reason to hang on till BFA. I mean, in reality, I suppose this change would probably come in the BFA pre-patch. But yeah, it obviously sounds like it's going to take a bit of time to implement and get right. And of course, we don't want that to be rushed. We don't want the same problems we've had with 7.3.5 when you make big changes to a system, even if it looks like a small change. Now, speaking of dungeons, another couple of things on dungeons. The first of which, as people will note, with the new zone scaling, it's quite clear Blizzard are trying to stop us basically leveling in dungeons. They don't want us to stop doing dungeons, but they want it to just, you know, go in there, do the quests, I guess, and move on and carry on questing. Now, the reason why I first of all had 2 accounts was mostly so that I could actually boost my own characters when I was leveling, because I didn't really... Obviously, it wasn't very efficient to level with questing ever since Cataclysm. And I didn't just want to queue up for dungeons with other people, because that can be... sometimes it's fine, but other times it's... So what I did, I got 2 accounts, and I got a high-level character to boost another character on the other account through those dungeons. I could just go from dungeon to dungeon to dungeon with a 2-player, like flying mount, stuff like that. Easy. So with the scaling, you know, people could still be doing that. And to be fair, there was an awful lot of abuse with it, because with scaling, you could just basically boost someone in stockades over and over and over again. That's a bit crap. That's obviously not intended. And it's not something you could do before. So basically what they've done is to massively reduce the experience you get from mobs in dungeons if you are with someone who's supposed to be too high. You know, so if you're with someone who's too high level for that dungeon, the amount of XP you're getting has been gutted. You're still getting, in fact, you get a slightly greater, I think, experience from the bonus completion of the dungeon. But overall, it's not going to look as good there. But still worth doing it. I would still plan to do it on my characters for at least the quest. And you do get that bonus XP. You do get the XP still at the end. It's just that the mob XP has been nerfed massively if you're with someone that's too high level for that dungeon. Now, third piece of dungeon news. This is classic. So we've just had Time Walking, Wrath of the Lich King Time Walking. I didn't do the Ulduar one. I didn't do the Ulduar raid. My guild didn't do it. If the guild had done it, I would have done it as well. But also, there's no great nostalgia for that for me because I'd quit the game just before Ulduar came out and came back well after it had come out. So there's no great sort of nostalgia for me there. But I did do some time walking. It was quite noticeable. The first time walking I did was Pit of Sauron. And all right, there were a couple of people in it that were not great as a group. And it was a bit of a struggle, but it was sort of okay. It wasn't too bad. But it was noticeably more difficult than the other dungeons. Now, I thought that was okay personally, because it was at the time. At the time, you know, the Pit of Sauron was one of a trilogy of dungeons that came out mid-expansion, effectively, for the purposes of helping gear people up. And it was tougher. But, okay, maybe this was unintended. So what Blizzard have said is the health of most enemies in Pit of Sauron has been reduced by 50% in Time Walking. They announced this at the end of Time Walking, though. So this is more for the next time Wrath Time Walking comes along. Absolutely hilarious, just the timing of it. But nonetheless, you know, it's one of those things, I guess, people have fed back, oh, it seems a bit tough, and they've gone, okay. So it will be much less tough next time around. Now, on to class missions. It turns out, and I'd never even considered this, so it turns out that if you do the missions that reward Blood of Sargeras, and as I'm guessing, all do now, we send these missions off on 200%, so we're guaranteed to get the bonus. Turns out that for the Bloods of Sargeras, I have so many of them that I don't really do these missions. I'm now sort of thinking, well, maybe I should have done. Because for the order resources it costs to send the mission off, with the bloods you get back, you could turn them in for order resources and get more order resources. So in other words, you're paying order resources and with a guaranteed profit, if you see what I mean, even if you don't need the bloods for anything else. So Blizzard, not too happy about this, have changed it now. So now I found out about it, it's not going to work anymore. So what they've said is Argus missions that award Blood of Sargeras now cost 600 more order hall resources. This will not be correctly reflected in the Legion Companion app until its next version update. So you can still actually, you know, profit in if you use the old app to do your missions, as of course you probably should, because you can do that from anywhere, as opposed to having to be logged into the game. Of course, you do have to not be logged into the game to use it, but there you go. Developers notes, completing these missions with bonus rewards previously returned more order hall resources than they cost. Rather than reduce their yield, we've increased the cost of the missions so that players with ample order hall resources can convert them to trade skill materials. So yeah, so I suppose if you're still doing missions on the app, then until the next update comes out, and I don't know when that could be. I mean, you know, the implication might be there it's not going to come out for a while, but it might come out today. But you'd still be able to get that at the reduced cost. But yeah, I didn't know that. I've still got plenty of order resources though, so I don't care. Final bit of news, bit of a weird one. So there's a new book out that Blizzard have released, written by Chris Metzen. So I think it's sort of part of the, or linked to the Traveller series. I don't think it's the Traveller series as such, but that's sort of intended for kids. It's specifically intended for kids. And it's called Snowfight, a Warcraft tale. It has the most adorable Arthas in it. So basically, it's written from the point of view of little Arthas, little Varian, and little Thrall. You know, a book that you can get on Amazon. So if anyone's interested in their sort of Blizzard books, that one's out there. It is, of course, intended for children, like proper children as well, before the age when you really should be playing World of Warcraft. So it's a way of indoctrinating the next generation, I think. But there you go, that's the news for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share for further content. Don't forget to check out my streaming schedule for when I'm going to be actually streaming the BFA Alpha. Sometimes it's a bit ad hoc, but sometimes it's actually scheduled. The next guaranteed one is going to be sometime Friday evening, because I'm going to do a bit of a mix. I'm going to do the Guild Out raid first, and then going to go into BFA Alpha, and then Saturday afternoon as usual. So thanks very much, and until next time, I'll see you later.